Hello, everybody. This is Debbie Powell. I'm the coordinator for the Master Gardener program for Tuolumne and also Calaveras. And we have such a fascinating speaker tonight. His name is Rich Lundeen, and he is going to give a talk, a presentation about his Stevia research program. So welcome, Rich, and I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you very much. The research program is sort of a byproduct of work we've been doing, Dr. Claudia Brackett-Lundeen and myself, for since 2007, and for myself before 2007, 1996, when we were looking at various things that, various plants that could tell our mineral industry client. I'm a registered professional geologist of 50 years and a registered professional archaeologist of 35. And I've been working in the mining industry for 50 years, helping our clients, mineral industry clients, use plants to find mineral deposits. Not all that time, but a good sized portion of it. Next slide.
Okay. Hold on just a second. There's a trick to this. Okay. There we go. It just took a while.
Want you to research it. Whoops, I've got phone calls. But anyway, I'll just let it ring. Wangina Research Institute is the development division of Wombat Mining and Exploration, and its predecessor, Wallaby Enterprises. This is I don't know who that is, but anyway, we're going to leave it. Anyway, we've been doing work for the mining industry and looking at archaeological sites in the United States and overseas since '71. But we recently focused our research on utilization of medicinal plants to provide medicines to alleviate human diseases. This is part of our ongoing program. To research to illuminate the roles of plants in archaeological investigations of sites of human activity. Now, what that all means is that plants are really, really important for past cultures, and that when past cultures use plants for medicinal purposes, the information was basically lost. But when these past cultures passed away, and their human remains or animal remains, their middens, that's places where they went potty, remained, the remnants of plants and the effects of plants on the surface showed themselves up. Next slide, please. And over this period of time, we've done work throughout the Western United States, in the Eastern United States, and overseas. Next. This is where we live. Dr. Claudia Brackett and myself live in Confidence House. And this is in the former mining settlement of Confidence, Arizona, and California. And almost immediately, we started planting or replanting gardens that had been neglected since the death of our parents. This is where they live, the Rushes. Next. We initiated our plant program in 2008 with research and field work on the use of plants to find and map mineral resources, biogeochemistry, for its mineral industry clients. The initial work was built on some pioneer working that Colin Dunn did in 2007, and it's in our reference. They clearly demonstrate that mineral deposits could be found by sampling specific plant types that concentrated metals in various parts of the plants during various seasons. This work led to realization that plants concentrated phosphorus and metals could be indicators of human or animal activity. Now, do you all know that phosphorus is a part of all of our bodies? And whenever we excrete it, that's a nice way for going potty, we leave a phosphorus content in the ground. And that phosphorus in the ground over years can be detected with new technology and tells us where archaeological sites are and then once we find those sites, we can determine how people lived. Next, please. We initiated what is called Biogeochemistry program in 2009 with research and field work on the use of plants to find and map archaeological sites. Biogeochemistry for its mineral industry and private party clients, and then we did a symposium on that in 2010. That's referred in references. This work led to investigations of a wide variety of plants that were affected by human activity and caused growth features, i.e. crop marks, and how to use these features to find and map sites of past human activities. This might sound like we're a little far away from stevia, but we'll get there. These studies led to WRI research into the use of medicinal plants by prehistoric and historic era cultures worldwide. Next. Now, how many of you know about crop marks? Well, very few people know about crop marks, but crop marks are what you find when people lived in an area and then they grow crops over the top of that area. And then aerial photos are taken of that area and it shows these circular features and other things that are associated with what's under the ground. And off to the right in this are how these crop marks show how plants grow up in depressions, which concentrate water and grow and are retarded when there's with structures underneath it. And so these were this pioneering work on crops marks were done, or these works, these studies of crop marks were done in the UK starting in the 1920s. And in the UK, there's thousands and thousands of places where the crop marks show where people have lived. And they could be just flat fields, but they have different areas of vegetation. So this is why we were interested in it. Next slide, please. This WRI research identified plants that appeared from the literature that have beneficial medicinal properties. Stevia rubidana, yerba santa, and valerian, and started growing stevia in 2016. Now we're getting into stevia. The propagation of stevia was first from acquired nursery stock of several varieties of stevia plants. This work led to the information that apart from Stevia rubidana, worldwide use as a non-nutritive sweetener, it may have had medicinal properties for the indigenous populations in China, India, and Paraguay that used it regularly in teas and food flavorings, and showed a low incidence of type 2 diabetes. Now, I digress a little bit. At this point, we had been studying what plants were doing, and then we're finding, incidentally, that other people have been studying stevia and these other plants that had from areas that had low diabetes incidence. The next slide, please. This research led to information from the UK University, that's the United Kingdom, Ministry of Health. The efforts had been initiated in 2006 to investigate Stevia rubidana and other traditional plant species that had been used in the past by native cultures in China and India. This information that these cultures had low incidence of type 2 diabetes was enough just to search the literature and find a recent Iranian study that had been cited. This published study suggests that regular use of Stevia rubidana powder by test animals with type 2 diabetes showed improvement of symptoms and regeneration of beta cells in the pancreas. And we have that study on our website. Next, please. This was not for myself. My father died from the complications of type 2 diabetes. And with Dr. Claudia Brackett-Lendine's permission, we started growing growing stevia. The first mother plant of Stevia rubidiana was ready for harvesting in 2017. The mother plant proved, that's right outside the door here, that it was very hardy and could take the California winters at 4250 elevation and bounce back in the spring with luxuriant foliage. About 4 months ago, this pot was just sticks sticking up. And with a little bit of water and a little bit of love, that's what we've got right now. Next. Now, what we have done is this. Confidence House, where Claudia and I live, has a wraparound porch that essentially is 4 gardens. And these gardens are deer-proof. Obviously, the deer can't come up the stairs to go munch on our plants. So we grow our plants all there. And then we also grow in the springtime our seedlings in our greenhouse. And off on the left-hand side of the figure to the left, you can see where we have 4 of our stevia plants that are, each one of them is a different species. Next. Oh, also we grow a lot of tomatoes. View of other plants in our east garden with artificial, and we put artificial flowers in the barrels in order to keep the cats out. And that works pretty well. In addition to that, Claudia's daughter had a house in Modesto, and she wasn't there very often, but she wanted to keep her plants alive. So she came up with a bottle watering system. And we would go over to her house and we'd fill the bottles up occasionally. And we saw that the plants were thriving from this bottle watering system. And so we adopted it. And so we have 2 watering systems for our plants around the house. One is the bottle watering system, and the other is that I installed a overhead drip watering system, and you can see one of the lines coming down. Next slide, please. And in the north garden, we have other plants with a potty box to keep out the cats. That's their potty box, they can go there. And then we have a view of our bottled watering system and our valerian plant. We grow vegetables, stevia, valerian, Japanese maples, and squash and beans. Next, please. And this is a view of our bottle watering system of our herb plants on our front porch, our west garden. And you can see that all the herbs are doing quite well. And this is a view with the house watering system comes down and waters all those plants there in that batch right on the west side. Next. Now, this is our hardworking crew, and there's Claudia and her roses, and there's myself. And now I'm open for questions. So if we could open it all up and unmute.
Sure. Let me unmute everybody. I'm going to unmute everyone. Are there any questions for Rich?
Yes, this is Sylvia. I'd like to know when you talk about the bottle watering, what does that entail?
It just, we gathered up bottles, and then we found out that there were little screw-on attachments with semi-permeable cones on them. And we filled up the water bottle, and then we just plopped it in, and then the plant took water from as much as it wanted through the semi-impermeable cones. And a typical plant, like I just watered some of our chili plants, we'll take half a bottle of water, and the water is about 20, the bottles are vary in size from 28 ounces on up to 44 ounces, and they'll take a bottle of water in 3 or 4 days. And that's what I do first thing in the morning and when it's warm out, is I go around and check which bottles are low and which bottles need to be replaced. Does that answer your question?
Yes, except for where did you get the semi-permeable membrane?
Oh, you can get them at a 99-cent store, and they're really inexpensive. There's a pack of 2, and they're $1.
Okay. And that's just what they're for? They're just for these bottles?
Yeah, they just grew on to the smallest bottle we've seen is a 18-ounce bottle, but up to a 44-ounce bottle. The trick is to have the right threaded head.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Rich, I've got a question for you. You were saying that you grow 4 types of stevia. Now, do all those 4 types of stevia make it through the winter where you live, or do you have to bring some of them in the house?
2, the mother plant and 1 other species of stevia made it through the last winter. We took 2 stevias into the house, and they didn't do too well in the house. And so we put them back up, and we had to replace those with 2 other stevias from nursery stock. Would everybody like to know what we do with the stevia?
Yes.
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 Okay. What we do with the stevia is this. In the fall, when the leaves are fully out, matter of fact, probably in early September, we'll harvest the leaves from the stevia plant, and then we'll dry them, and then we'll crush the stevia plants up into a ball. Into a powder, and then put them in capsules, because that's what we both take as a supplement, so that we can gain the benefit of stevia. And since I have a tendency of having diabetes from my family, it protects my pancreas. We really believe in the study that was by the Iranian study, and several other studies that have been done subsequent to the Iranian study. And so that's what we do. And then I just made this morning, we had a whole jar full of stevia leaves. I put them into a little tea cozy, or I don't know what you call it over here. It's for loose leaf tea. And I had a sweet stevia tea. It is very, very pleasant. And that's what we do. And we love plants. The Confidence House, in addition to the gardens that are around on the second story of it, we have a Japanese garden and an English garden. And they're in not great shape right now because of the winter. But we like to have them up and operational by June or early July.
Hey, Rich, can you talk a little bit more about the Iranian study as far as what they did?
What they did, the Iranian, this is out of the University of Shiraz in Iran. What they did was they were commissioned by the Iranian government to see whether stevia was a plant system that they wanted to have in Iran, because Iran has the right elevations from 1,500 to 2,000 meters. And so they commissioned the study. Well, as a byproduct of this study, some information had come in from other places, from the UK mainly, that the actual stevia would have a beneficial effect on type 2 diabetes. So they ran a study with rats and that had diabetes, and they tested these rats with stevia to see if it alleviated the symptoms, and then did autopsies of the rats to see if the pancreas had been regenerated. I mean, had some regeneration, and there were positive studies. The study was actually published in India because some of the investigators wanted a more friendly forum for publishing this data. And they were encouraged by some of the other stevia investigators around the world. Stevia is now grown in 27 countries and around the world. And if you look at an aerial photo of Paraguay, there's all these stevia plantations, and we've got them in North Carolina, we've got them in, there's lots of places around. When you go to the stevia website, it's just amazing how much this has caught on. And it all started out with the Japanese growing stevia in the 1950s because they wanted to have a population that wasn't totally dependent on cane sugar or high fructose corn syrup. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's fascinating.
Now, one of the other reasons that I'm involved with working with plants is my doctoral dissertation in Scotland. That's why I have the funny hat on. And I'm Scots descent, and my doctoral dissertation is to find the evidence of a battle that occurred 900 years ago, the Battle of Bannockburn, that really gave Scott its independence. It was Scotland's Yorktown. And it was commemorated for all that time since then, but nobody knew really where it was. And so we're using plants to try and find where the deeply buried battlefield and the 3,000 people that died there are buried. That's my dissertation topic. So
how do you do that? Just curious. Do you analyze the plants? How do you?
Well, if we had not had COVID interrupt us this year, and we had some problems with Brexit last year, we would have gone over to Scotland. There are 185 trees along this one stream. It's called the Brook of Bannock. And these trees were planted in 1926. Now, the battlefield was covered over by 9 different flood events from 1314 all the way up to 2009. And these flood events buried the battlefield and the 2 major burial trenches where these people were buried. And so they're 10 meters down. That's roughly 32 feet down. And so there was a major effort made in 2011 to 2014, which would be the anniversary of the battle, to find these people with surface geophysics, that's looking with metal detectors and other methods on the surface, and with lots and lots of people digging holes in the ground. And all they found were 4 artifacts that had been brought up from depth that were possibly from that time. Now, there is a very good, if any of you are interested in this, a YouTube presentation on the search for Bannockburn. And that's very important to the Scottish people. And the reason I was there in 2002 was to find if my clan, the Lundines, were involved with that battle. And I haven't found any evidence they were. They were out watching everybody else fight. But anyway, that's why I have an interest in sampling the trees, the new vegetation in trees. You have to do it in the spring. And these are 4 different varieties of trees from eucalyptus to yew that have deep roots that go all the way down at least 10 meters. And so if you sample the leaves, and then you say, we're talking about sampling a tree at 5 different locations around the tree, sampling the new growth and putting it in a plastic bag, then taking it back to the University of Sterling and having it ashed, and then running the ash with a thing that looks like a hairdryer. It's a portable X-ray fluorescence unit, and that'll tell us how much phosphorus is in the sample. Now, as I said earlier, phosphorus is the building block of all human life, and it's what's left over from all human activity. I'm sorry, I may have talked too long.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Do you have any other questions?
Does anybody else have a question? And now you've also, Rich, do you have one website, and that is for your research activities that you were talking about, Wangina.
Right.
Are you going to be having another website for Stevia, or is any information about Stevia on your Wangina website?
Well, right now, our Wangina Research Institute website is under construction. Matter of fact, over the winter, a lot of stuff didn't get put onto it. Now we've got some time over the summer, as of we think we're just not going to Scotland or any place this summer. And let's go to the next slide.
Okay. Oops. Let me see if it's going to, might have to go back. My computer is, unfortunately, I think it's freezing for some reason. It's just not, sorry, Rich. I may not be able to do anything with it right at the moment.
Well, on the next slide is how you get in touch with us, and also an invitation to come over to Confidence House and visit with Claudia and myself this summer and see our gardens, and we'd appreciate your advice.
Okay, that sounds great.
There are some questions on chat.
Oh, thank you. Let me find let's see more. Let's see, where is my chat? Security.
Oh, there's 5 questions in chat. Good.
That's okay. 2 names. How about, do you see, Val, were you the one talking that said that you saw it on chat?
No, it was
I
Pam.
can see it. I just looked. Do you want me to read them? Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, Ed Bass to everyone. Define used. I've used products with Stevia.
Pardon me?
He wants you, well, I think we should go on. From Katie Halverson. Have you ever grown Stevia in the ground, or must it be a pot plant?
No, I have not grown Stevia in the ground because we've always wanted to keep the cats out of it. But the deer out of it. So we've had this unique opportunity with a house that has 4 porches that are cat-proof. I mean, not cat-proof, they're not cat-proof, they're deer-proof. And so we've always used those.
Okay, uh-oh, I lost my chat.
Oh, okay. I'm actually able to see it now, I believe. The chat. Okay. There is a question, how is stevia consumed?
Yeah, it's consumed in a tea, or in our case, we put it into a powder and we take capsules of it, and it's put in soft drinks. It's used in baking. There's, I think from the stevia international website, there's 40 different uses for stevia as a sweetener in lots of different foods.
Okay. Now, do you have much experience baking with it, Rich, or does your wife Claudia bake with it?
She bakes with the stevia powder, and we also have in the past used stevia powder that's been made commercially. But the stevia that we bake with ends up with exactly the same taste as cane sugar or other corn syrup, or the other one. Oh, the one made from roots.
Oh, beet sugars from beet, sugar beets.
Sugar beets, yeah. And we're very happy with it. And there's lots and lots and lots of recipes for using stevia in baking on the International Stevia website.
Okay. Now, just curious, since you've grown the 4 different varieties of stevia, have you noticed if there's a difference in taste among those 4 varieties?
No, we haven't. We haven't noticed the taste, any taste difference, because when they're dried and then and we put them in the various bottles that we have on our in our kitchen, when we make tea out of them, or whether we grind them up into a powder, they all seem to have the same sugar content or same sweetness content.
Okay. And then of those 4 varieties, is there one that grows very short and compact, or are there any that grow taller?
Yes. Yes, there are 2 of our varieties. And where you can tell the difference on the varieties is the leaves. Some of the leaves have serrated edges. Some of the plants of one variety have serrated edges. Some of the leaves are just without the serrated edges, and some of them are bushy, and some of them are just plain. I mean, just it just are not climbing, but just like in our mother plant.
And where did you say originally you got your plants from? Did you buy seeds off the internet, or where did you get the?
We bought seeds off the internet, and we tried to grow them, stevia, from the seeds in our little greenhouse. But we only got 1 out of maybe 40, and stevia seeds are fairly expensive. And we, out of 40 seeds that we put in, we got 1 really scraggly seedling come up, and then it didn't make it. So after that, Claudia and I said, okay, but this was after we had our mother stevia, and we're already getting stevia, the leaves from it. But the experiment of growing stevia from seeds, has anyone been able to grow stevia from seeds? I know several of you have grown or have stevia. That's a question.
No, I've never tried.
It's difficult. I've been told the last stevia plant I got was from North Carolina, and we got it over at the Nest. And I asked them, what sort of success do the people in North Carolina have growing stevia? And the owner of the Nest said, well, they don't do too well. They have maybe 20, 30% of the seeds, go into marketable plants. So, other questions? Oh, what climate environment do you grow your stevia plant in? The stevia is grown worldwide between 1,500 and 2,000 meters. That's where it has grown in the past for past cultures. And we're right here, right at 4250, we're right at that.
Now, Rich, what are some of the other countries that are growing stevia? You said, I think you said 27 countries, but where are those countries?
China, the United States, Canada. Canada grows a lot of stevia in hothouses. Matter of fact, some of the stevia plant suppliers were put out of business because the Canadians could undercut them so much by growing them, and they grow them. They grow the stevia in hothouses in northern Athabasca and Saskatchewan, which I find is pretty amazing because they get good light during the summertime, what I've been told. Now, Germany, France, the UK, Italy, South Africa, Australia, here in the United States, North Carolina, Arizona, California, obviously, and places, Colorado, and back east in New Jersey, North Carolina, I said. Yeah, it's amazing. And they're all producing a lot of stevia for sweetener. And then only a certain portion of those are producing stevia for medicinal purposes right now. And that's a controlled study or a controlled group that the Ministry of Health in the UK, who first came up with the concept of having stevia looked at for type 2 diabetes, they're sort of coordinating that worldwide. And there are...
Rich, you had also mentioned, and I'm not sure, I mean, you didn't mention tonight, but previously when we talked, there was a study and it was regarding beta cells.
Oh, that's the that's the Iranian study that was published in India. And I have a copy of that.
Okay. Can you talk about why that's important?
Well, beta cells are the parts of the pancreas that are affected by diabetes, and they die. And that's why when I've done my research on, on the stuff that happened to my father, that when I was dealing with my dad's diabetes back in the 1960s, I talked to his specialist, and he said the American population doesn't have the discipline that the Japanese population has and other countries have to test for insulin levels, 1, 2, to restrain themselves from eating high carb diets, 3, to look the other way when someone has a really nice piece of chocolate cake, and 4, that they don't monitor this stuff on a regular basis. And he said, that's why your dad's going to die. And he did. And so, this is getting off topic, but I think that if stevia is available and people can take it like we take it in a capsule or in a tea, and it doesn't require the testing, and this might help a lot of the type 2 diabetics. And I hope I don't get diabetes but I don't think I will now. But the action is that the diabetes disease destroys beta cells. And if you can regenerate those beta cells through the use of a stevia or a plant combination or a combination of other herbals like the Chinese did, then you're going to have something that will really work for a lot of people. Does that make sense?
That does. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. And it's really encouraging that there's this huge interest and commitment on the part of other countries to grow it.
They're making a lot of money growing it as a sweetener. And then it's the byproduct, if they grow it for medicinal purposes and do the testing of it, just like the Iranians did and the English and various other countries now, French, it just has to be mainlined. But yeah, that's the hope.
Now, Rich, you were saying that when you were participating in the Tuolumne Farmers Market, that you used to sell some of the stevia plants there.
Right. We had stevia plants there 2 years ago. And we had stevia plants, we had Japanese maples, and we had these little adapters for water, the cones that screw on the bottles. And then people came around and they asked what stevia was for. And I said, well, you all were aware that it's for sweetening. But this is the other things that it's possible it can be used for. And so we sold the stevia plants for what we paid for them.
Now, so you bought those plants and maybe grew them on and then sold them at the farmer's market? Yeah,
I did. And
okay.
I was, I'm semi-disabled from a gang attack back in 2010. And I retired from being a president of a mining company. And so I wanted to have something to do. And so this is our outreach.
It's wonderful. Would you mind if I asked the group where they've purchased their stevia plants, if they've gotten them from seed or if they've gotten, bought them in like maybe a 3-inch or 4-inch pot?
No, not at all.
Okay. Anybody, can you kind of share where you found your stevia plants?
I found mine at Columbia Nursery a few years ago.
Val, are yours still alive?
No, they didn't last very long. I don't know what I did. I can't remember.
I got mine at Lowe's, 4-inch pots at Lowe's a couple years ago. I bought them for a classroom experiment and I had extras. And the one I have left looks great. I live at 400 feet.
Oh, good.
Where it's hot. And it actually keeps coming back each year. Looks great. But
so
I didn't know what to do with it.
Is it outside in the ground?
It's outside in the ground, in the sun, in the afternoon sun.
Wow.
I didn't know what to do with it. It just keeps growing, so I certainly wasn't going to argue with it. So I'm glad to hear this, to see what I can do with the leaves, because the one plant I have looks pretty good. I'm not sure which type it is, so I'm going to look that up.
Well, we have stevia plants on all 4 of the gardens around the house. On the north side, we have 2 stevia plants right next to our Japanese maples. And they seem to be doing just as well as on the sunny side of the house. But on the sunny side of the house and with our watering system, the stevia seems to just be growing like mad.
Okay.
So it doesn't.
Well, go ahead, Rich.
It doesn't really make a difference to what we're doing, that the side of the house or the amount of sun that gets it. We do have to shield our tomato plants on the sunny side, on the south side. And Claudia makes these little aprons that she puts around the the tomato plants, so they won't get terribly sunburned.
Okay. Does anybody have any more questions for Rich? Anybody? I'm gonna stop recording right at the moment, but